This video is sponsored by Squarespace. I love miniature painting, but basing, not so much. It always feels like it takes forever, especially when I just want to get my miniatures on the table to show my friends. But today, I'm going to show you how to create amazing forest, urban, and prairie bases in literally 2 minutes so you can get to gaming faster. Before I begin, here's the formula I like to use for better bases. It's the rule of 3. We want 3 textures for the base, 3 types of foliage, and 3 colors. This combination creates a natural, believable base that will enhance your miniatures. Beyond that, if you're ever not sure how many to add, the answer is also 3. Okay, let's get started. For these quick basing tutorials, you'll need texture paste or spackle, small rocks, sand, clumped grass, and static grass. However, there are tons of interesting and unique terrain bits that you can use in replacement for just about anything in this video. The only key is the texture paste. We'll start with the forest base, perfect for Age of Sigmar miniatures or personally Dungeons & Dragons miniatures. This base is being made for my cool orc with a back brace from the Limitless Legends miniature campaign, featuring heroes with disabilities. The Kickstarter is coming to a close, but I will link to their My Mini Factory in the description. Take your texture paste and smear it onto the base using a plastic knife, creating a 1 cm depth of paste. Remove excess and smooth away any clear knife marks to achieve a more natural consistency. However you leave the paste is how it will dry, so take a moment to create a texture you're happy with. Typically, texture paste takes a few hours to dry, but here we're going to use texture paste as our glue. Although you see me place my model first, it's actually not the best idea because the model's too heavy. Instead, keep in mind where you want to place the model on the base and create the base accordingly. For my second and third texture on the base, I'm starting from large to small. I'm placing 2 brown stones onto the base, then scattering black sand around them. I'm not putting too much thought into this, the goal is speed. While the texture paste is still wet, I'm adding 3 variations of clump grass. 1 medium-length light grass, 1 tall dark grass, and 1 very short dark grass. Then sprinkling loose grass to fill in the remaining spaces, layering both dark and light grass to add dimension to the base. And that's why you should put the model on last. Next, I'm adding a wash to the rocks because they stand out a little too much for my taste, so the wash will help them better blend in, allowing the model to really be the focus. Finally, I place the model onto the base and let it dry. And here is the final result. In just 2 minutes, we've created an interesting and believable base, perfect for the tabletop. If you wanted, you could definitely spend time adding little intricacies like flowers or logs. It all depends on personal preference. Basing your models might be difficult, but creating a stunning website is easier than ever with Squarespace's new guided design system, Squarespace Blueprint. Choose from professionally crafted layouts, customize them to reflect your style quickly, and utilize Squarespace's drag and drop fluid engine for enhanced control. Seamlessly integrate your social media and accelerate your growth with integrated, optimized SEO tools. Seriously, Squarespace Blueprint is magic, and I can only dream of army painting one day being this easy. So whether you're selling online courses, physical products, or just showing off your work, get back to painting and playing faster by using Squarespace. When you're ready to start, head to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, use code LYLAMEV to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. All right, back to painting. Let's do our urban base. Giving a post-apocalyptic feel, I'm making this for my Sisters of Battle kill team. However, you could add nature and foliage to this and just as easily have fantastic dungeon ruins. To start, I'm spreading black urban texture paste across the base. Like last time, I'm applying enough to act as glue, but I'm avoiding piling it up. This will create the foundation for our cityscape. To create my broken stone, I am ripping apart cork board. Cork board is great because it's easy to use and provides a smooth surface on top with ragged edges. Perfect for mimicking that broken stone look. I'm placing 3 large pieces onto the base in a way that will allow my model to stand on top of them. I like to put the pieces of corkboard at a slight angle, that way it looks like they're sinking into the earth. Then I'm sprinkling black stones and black sand into the wet paste. This urban base is a great one to do en masse. You have to wait for the texture paste to dry before you can continue, though it's a great opportunity to make a ton of bases all at once. Once the texture paste is dry, I'm airbrushing black paint onto the corkboard, making sure to cover all the nooks and crannies. Next is time to add dimension through dry brushing. Although I initially took this slowly, it wasn't necessary. Here's what worked. Dry brush nooks and crannies of the base with a medium gray. Then paint the top of the cement that same color. Next, add another layer of light gray dry brush / edge highlighting. This adds depth and dimension, enhancing the realistic look of the urban base. Again, if you wanted this to look like dungeon ruins, I would suggest adding clump grass peeking up in between those cracks. And bam, a super simple urban base ready in minutes. But what if you're doing a full army and want to save money? Texture paste can be pricey. This pre-made texture paste I have is like $11 for 2 ounces. For me, it's totally worth it, but for you, maybe not. So let's talk about a cheaper alternative. I'm using a heavy-duty spackle to create my own DIY texture paste. This 10-ounce heavy-duty spackle costs about $10, which is so much more reasonable than the texture paste. However, it does have its own downsides. To make your texture paste, start by placing spackle into a small container, then mix in your paint. I'm aiming for a darker desaturated brown, so I'm mixing in both brown and black. The more paint you add, the easier it will be to spread and the better it will work as glue. But let's talk downsides. The biggest issue is that DIY texture paste just doesn't last as long as commercially made texture paste. I've had this texture paste for over a year and it's still in perfect condition. In contrast, my DIY texture paste only lasts a few days before it starts to dry out. When creating your mixture, keep in mind that the more you make, the longer it will last. Therefore, I recommend making a large amount of your texture base and then creating a bunch of bases all at once before time runs out. Here I'm applying my spackle, then Dollar Tree stones and sand. To save costs, I'm using a limited amount of grass. First, I'm adding 3 clumps of a short, tough grass in a desaturated color, then sprinkling on a bit of static grass to fill in the gaps. Hopefully, these 2 variations will be enough to add dimension to create an interesting base. Once everything is in place, I'm letting the base dry. However, it's boring. So let's talk about a way to add interest without spending any more money. To tie the base together and add interest, I'm applying a layer of green-gray paint over the entire base using circular motions on my domed brush. This green-gray picks up the dimension of the sand and stones and tints the grass to be more in line with the other colors on the base. With this added dimension, the base looks so much better. And there you have it, 3 distinct, fast, and effective basic techniques for your miniatures. A forest base, a gritty urban base, and a cheap DIY prairie base. Each method utilizes our rule of 3 to create unique and believable bases. Remember, the key to basing is not the material. Instead, it's the randomness as well as the creativity that you use to make each base interesting. Whether you're aiming for speed, budget, or detail, hopefully you learned something in this video will inspire you and your next base. If you make any of these bases, please tag me on Instagram, I would love to see them. Until then, thanks so much for watching, like, comment, subscribe, join me on Patreon. Thanks so much, I'll see you next time.